by Parliament, and the answers are reacted to by the government of St. Martin. So, while it is possible, and I encourage members of Parliament who have recognized that some questions that they might have posed have not been answered, I would recommend that they ask those again now in a public meeting. However, generally speaking, the 100-and-something pages document reflect one, comments by members of Parliament, questions by members of Parliament, and then what we have done as two institutions is combine the answers into that document as well. So it would indeed be a good thing that any member of Parliament would put that document out publicly and have a discourse with the members of the public on some of the topics that I mentioned there. So I just wanted to clarify that, and at the end of the day, the reason for moving to today had to do with the fact that the government continuously impressed upon Parliament requesting their cooperation to handle this budget amendment ASAP. Hence, the decision of the chair to start the public handling of the budget today, Tuesday. So I hope to have explained those members who queried about it. In fact, I could go a little further and say that the possibility to decide not to go to this working trip of Parliament is also a possibility for the members who have been selected to travel based on the rotation schedule of Parliament. So with that, members of Parliament, members of the public, members of government, I hope to have explained why we're here today and starting the handling of the budget the budget amendment rather in a public meeting. And I hope to have any member of government in responding again go into the necessity for the urgent handling of this budget, on which I myself have questions with respect to especially the deadline as put forward by the Dutch government, but more about that during the course of the meeting. So, members of Parliament, I hope to have explained what we're doing, and of course we will go in. I can't promise anyone that we'll be going on until 12 a.m. tomorrow morning, but definitely we will try to do as much as we can during the course of today and of tomorrow. So I continue now, members of Parliament, ministers, because we do have ministers here on both sides of the fence, and the agenda points for this meeting start with the incoming documents and continue with the draft national ordinance amending the national ordinance of the budget 2024. And this draft national ordinance, as presented to Parliament, is number 181. That's the number of the draft ordinance, and it is registered on the IS 124 of this parliamentary year, dated October the 4th, 2024. Before we go over to the agenda points, and as this is a public meeting of Parliament, allow me to remind all of the introduction of the usage of interruptions during public meetings, which, as you all know, we have established some time ago. And again, just for the sake of recollection, as well as for the sake of the general public, the following guidelines apply in accordance with Article 43 of the Rules of Order. So it's up to the chair to permit interruptions. Let's start with that. And these interruptions should aim to 1, seek clarification, 2, challenge assertions, or 3, contribute additional information. And of course, these have to be brief remarks or questions without any lengthy introduction. I have to ensure as chair order and decorum during the meetings and the use of interruptions as well. Members, ministers, and guests must maintain parliamentary decorum and refrain from making offensive or disorderly interruptions. And members will be allowed 3 interruptions per agenda point. Of course, we know where the interruptions need to be posed from, and that is the lectern in front of me. So going over to agenda point number 1, which is incoming documents. Members of Parliament, you have received the list of incoming documents and the proposals for further handling. These numbers are ISAs 059 through 168 of this parliamentary year. Are there any comments or proposals on the list of incoming documents before us? That is not the case. So I thank you, members of Parliament, and this list is, and the proposals for handling is hereby approved. Now we go over to agenda point number 2, and that is the draft national ordinance amending the budget 2024. As I mentioned before, it is draft ordinance number 181 in the administration of Parliament. This draft budget amendment was received on October the 4th of this year and is in the possession of members of Parliament. We had Central Committee meetings on October 10th, 11th, 15th, and 16th on the subject matter, in which, of course, members of Parliament posed their questions and they were answered by the Minister, as I mentioned during my introduction to this meeting this morning. The report has been made on the deliberations in the Central Committee, sent to government and to the members, and it has been answered with a so-called note following the final report. And that document is IS 193 of this parliamentary year. It's also important to know that the Parliament received a memorandum of modification, a so-called nota van wijziging to the draft from the Minister of Finance on October the 24th. This one is registered on the IS 190, dated October the 28th. So today, in the public meeting handling of the draft budget amendment 2024, the Minister of Finance will present on behalf of the Council of Ministers, whereafter the floor will be given to the members of Parliament to speak on the budget in the first round. And then, of course, the ministers are expected to answer the questions posed by the members of Parliament. So at this time, I want to give the floor to the Minister of Finance, Ms. Marinka Gumbs, for her opening remarks and presentation. I wish to remind, for when we get there, the members of Parliament that the speaking time for this meeting, this agenda point, is 30 minutes in the first round and 15 minutes in the second round, as indicated on the convocation for this meeting. So with that brief additional announcement, I now give the floor to the Minister of Finance. Minister Gumbs, you have the floor.